Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om Dhyayamo Dhavalavagunthanavatim Tejomayim Naishtikim Snigdhapangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmitashremukhim Vatsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shyamangim Madhusikta Suktim Amritanandatmikam Ishwarim Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. Om Amriteshwaryai Namah. Let us continue our discussion on Bhaja Govindam. So far, we have discussed 29 verses, and today we'll discuss the 30th verse, the one but the last verse. And the next session we'll be looking into the last verse, the 31st verse. So as always, let us go over all the 29 verses that we have discussed so far, going over the gist of every verse. The first verse is about reminding us why make life complicated, to go beyond the unnecessary technicalities of life and develop devotion, calling out to the divine. Second one, to control our urge, our greed to accumulate more and more wealth. Rather, put an effort to stick onto dharma, righteousness. The third verse was about going beyond the unnecessary obsession we would have about physical appearance. Understand that it is impermanent in nature. The fourth one is about life. Life is as unpredictable as it could get, and the better we are prepared for all the surprises that would be in stock for us, better we would fare in life. The fifth verse was about how, as long as we have abilities, as long as we have wealth, we will have people around us, we will have following. And the moment it deteriorates, so would people and the following that we would have, the popularity that we would have. Sixth verse is about how, as long as this body has breath in it, air in it, as long as there is life, people would consider us. Then it is natural that we would get forgotten. The seventh verse, how in every stage of our life we are obsessed with so many different things. Seldom do we actually think about that which we should be really obsessed about, that which we should really focus on, and we fail to do that. And then the eighth verse was about thinking about all the limitations that we have of relationships, etc., of positions, etc. And finally, ask the question, who am I? And there begins our journey. And as the journey begins, the ninth verse says, begin with right company so as to overcome attachment, so as to overcome, thereby overcoming being delusioned, overcoming that, and then the truth would be revealed to us. So that is the path we need to take. The 10th verse was about how the obsessions that we have with various things we hold significant, at later point of time it becomes insignificant. If we understand it, as we deal with them, better we would be able to deal with them. The 11th verse was about how we, now with these insignificant things or these impermanent things, we unnecessarily take pride in them. That is only going to fail us. The 12th verse is about how life gives us only experiences, and experiences would be dual in nature. The more we get carried away by the emotion of either of the experiences, worse we would feel about life. The better we would be, the more we are in the center. The 13th verse is about good company, and specifically about company of a Mahatma, how that alone would take us across the ocean of transmigration. The 14th verse is about how we are trying to grow spiritually. We should remind ourselves, growing externally is not the important part. What we wear, how do we make ourselves look spiritual? Rather, we should grow spiritually within, and it organically would reflect outside too. The 15th and the 16th verses are about desires. Though we are forced to let go of the abilities that we have, we are forced to let go of our youthfulness, forced to let go of all the possessions we have, still we don't let go of our grip on desires. That is what 15th and 16th verses remind us of. 17th verse is about austerities and rituals, how they are important for us in our initial stage as we try to grow. But we shouldn't be stuck in just austerities and rituals, unnecessarily being obsessed with what they contain. Rather, we need to grasp the principles and go beyond. 18th verse was about dispassion. One who develops dispassion, whatever be the condition one be in, how can such a person not be content? 19th verse, one who fixes one's mind onto the divine will ever be rejoiceful and only rejoiceful. The 20th verse was about how we deal with all these spiritual things, be it going on pilgrimage, taking a dip in the Ganges, or reading the Bhagavad Gita, calling out to the divine. We need to imbibe the principles. That is underneath it, that which is the foundation of it. We need to grasp them. The 21st verse was about how when we fail to do that, we are stuck in this vicious cycle of birth and death. More we are attached, more we are obsessed with things, more and more births that we need to take to burn out our karma. The 22nd verse talks about a true yogi. A true yogi is someone who takes the least from the world and gives the most back. And such a person is very difficult. Their mannerisms, their characteristics are difficult to comprehend. They are like children or a madman. The 23rd verse again comes back to the question of who am I? And we are trying to understand ourselves, negating all the relationships that we have, the bonds that we have, the possessions that we have, and then asking, who am I irrespective of them or devoid of them? 24th and 25th continue on the same topic of who am I, trying to realize the oneness in me and in all, to maintain the quality of equanimity and equipoised mind, because everything is one and the same. The 26th verse again continues with that, how we should realize the divine in me is the divine in everyone. The divine resides in everyone. And the best way to do that is to overcome the negativities that we have, lust, anger, greed, etc. And thus we would reach the state of oneness. The 27th verse was about Bahiranga Sadhana, the external spiritual practices. To read, to chant and imbibe the Gita and the 1,000 names, to focus our mind onto the divine, to be in good company, and to give unconditionally as much as we can to those in need. The 28th verse was about reminding ourselves that death is an indisputable thing in life. Thus, we should lead a meaningful life, not incurring any karma thereby, so that we get out of that vicious cycle of birth and death. The last verse that we discussed, that was a couple of weeks ago. We couldn't have the session the last week for unforeseen reasons. So the 29th verse that we discussed the last was about, again, the so-called wealth that we are so obsessed about. And the verse was talking about how this wealth is, when we are obsessed with the materialistic wealth, that only brings conflict in life. We should understand, though we hold it, give it the highest regard, it is meaningless in nature. That's where we concluded, and today we will look into the 30th verse, which is about Antaranga Sadhana. The 27th verse was about external spiritual practice. The 30th verse is about internal spiritual practice. So the verse goes as Pranayamam Pratyaharam Nitya Nitya Viveka Vicharam Japya Sameta Samadhi Vidhanam Kurvavadhanam Mahatavadhanam. So let's look into the pronunciation first, word by word, and then chant, and then look into the word by word meaning, and then the discussion. So please respond after me twice after I pronounce each of the terms. Pranayamam, it's actually a combination of two words. It is prana and ayamam. Both together would be pranayamam. The N is with the dot below, so rolling your tongue up. Retroflex na, prana. So pranayamam, pranayamam, pranayamam. And the next word is prati-aharam. Together would be pratyaharam. Please respond twice. Pratyaharam, pratyaharam. Pranayamam pratyaharam. The next line, it is nitya nitya viveka vicharam. We could split it into nitya. Please respond twice. Nitya, nitya. Anitya is the next word. Anitya, anitya. So nitya and anitya together would become nitya nitya, nitya nitya, nitya nitya. Viveka, viveka, viveka. Vicharam, vicharam, vicharam. Nitya nitya viveka vicharam. The third line is Japya sameta samadhi vidhanam. First word is japya, japya, japya. The first A has a bar over it, so it is japya. If it did not have a bar, it would be japya. So it is japya. It's a long A. Japya. Sameta, sameta, sameta. Samadhi, DH, so dha. Samadhi, samadhi, samadhi. Vidhanam, again DH, so it is dha. And A with a bar, so A, vidha. Vidhanam, vidhanam, vidhanam. Japya sameta samadhi vidhanam. Fourth line, kurvavadhanam. So it is kurva, so it is kuru avadhanam. It is kuru avadhanam. Kuru and avadhanam together would become kurvavadhanam. Kuru avadhanam together would become kurvavadhanam. This DH, so dha. Kurvavadhanam. Please respond twice. Kurvavadhanam. Kurvavadhanam. Next word, mahat. 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 Avadhanam. 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 DH, so dha. Avadhanam. Kurvavadhanam. Mahat avadhanam. Is the fourth line. So the verse is pranayamam pratyaharam nitya nitya viveka vicharam japya sameta samadhi vidhanam kurvavadhanam mahatavadhanam. So let us now chant it in tune twice. Please join me the first time if you are familiar, else join me the second time. Pranayamam pratyaharam nitya nitya viveka vicharam japya sameta samadhi vidhanam kurvavadhanam mahatavadhanam. Once more. Pranayamam pratyaharam nitya nitya viveka vicharam japya sameta samadhi vidhanam kurvavadhanam mahatavadhanam. So let's look into the meaning. Pranayamam. Pranayamam. Prana translates to vital force in our body. We'll discuss about it. Ayamam, to control. So pranayamam, to control, to restrain the vital forces in our body. Pranayamam. Pratyaharam. Prati aharam. Aharam, to withdraw. Pratyaharam, to withdraw in the right sense. Pratyaharam, to withdraw. Withdraw what? To withdraw our senses and our mind. To withdraw them within. So pranayamam, control of the pranas, to withdraw our senses and mind inward. Nitya nitya viveka vicharam. Nitya, that which is permanent, that which is eternal. Anitya, as a prefix would negate that meaning. So nitya is eternal. Anitya is something that is not eternal. So what is eternal, what is not eternal? Viveka. Viveka, right discernment, right discrimination. So we should be able to develop the faculty to discriminate between what is eternal, what is not eternal, what is permanent, what is impermanent. Viveka. Vicharam, thought. So develop the thought process to understand what is permanent and what is not. Third line, japya sameta. Japa. Japa is to chant. Constant practice. Constant contemplation. Japa. We'll again get to each one of these more in detail. So japya, along with japa. Sameta. Along with japa, that which is completed, or along with, tagging along. Japya sameta. Samadhi vidhanam. Samadhi. Samadhi is that ultimate state of oneness. We'll discuss about it further. Vidhanam. Make all the arrangements. Make things conducive so as to reach the state of samadhi. Through or along with japa. Along with constant remembrance, constant contemplation, constant chanting. Kuru. Perform or do. Kuru. Avadhanam. Avadhanam, with caution or with care, with awareness. So kuru avadhanam. Do it with awareness, do it with care. Mahat. Mahat is to stress the importance of it. Great. Great avadhanam, with great care. So do it with care, do it with great care. So to summarize the verses, the summary slide, to summarize the verses, this verse is about the antaranga sadhana, the inward or the internal sadhana, spiritual practice. So what are the internal spiritual practices listed in this verse? 1, control of the pranas, control of the vital forces in our body. 2, to withdraw our senses and our mind. We use the term shama and dhamma for that. And then 3rd, inquire and reflect upon what is permanent and what is impermanent, and try to understand the situation better. after inquiring of what is permanent and what is impermanent in any given situation. And ultimately, what is the ultimate permanent thing is what we need to finally discover or realize. Fourth one, japa, chanting, constant remembrance, constant contemplation, japa. Fifth one, to reach the state of samadhi, a state of equipoise, a state of equanimity, is the fifth one. And the sixth one is like a stress on when we do all this, we should do it with shraddha, we should do it with awareness, we should do it with care, and not just care, we should do it with great care. It's a stress. Avadhanam, mahat avadhanam. Do it with care, do it with great care. So, going into this verse to discuss about it further, if we have paid attention, we have discussed so far 29 verses. The first 13 verse, though it's not really confirmed, but it is more or less the popular belief that the first 13 verses that we discussed in the Bhaja Govindam, the first 13 verses were directly composed or written by Adi Shankaracharya. The next 13 verses are by his disciples, and there are specific names associated with each of the verses thereafter. So the first 13 verses they were about to understand things that we consider significant. Are they really significant? So the question that we need to ask ourselves, the first 13 verses were about that. And the second set of 13 verses were more or less reiteration of the first 13 verses by the disciples, probably elaborating more on it or having a different point of view on the same topic. So the next 13 verses were like that. And then the last set of verses that we have, the 4 or 5, which are about practical things. Do this in life. Put it into action through these practical things. So that's how my understanding of the arrangement of the verses in Lalita Sahasranama are. So 13 and the 26 verses were about facts about life, facts about creation, facts about how things are. And then the 27th verse was about the Bahiranga sadhana, the outward, the external sadhana. And we discussed as part of that, we should chant the Gita and the 1,000 names. There are various forms of Gitas, there are various forms of 1,000 names. Not just mechanically chant them, but also to imbibe the teachings, the principles that they stand for. And then 2, make our mind dedicated or focused on the divine. When we say make our mind focused on the divine, it's not just sitting with our eyes 24/7. Rather, whatever we do, bring in that positive effect, bring in that positive attitude. When we associate anything that we do with the divine or our beloved deity, automatically we would have a positive attitude towards that situation, towards that action. So always have our mind focused on the divine. 3, maintain good company so that we always have a conducive environment that will help us grow, was the third one. And the fourth one was about how we should not hesitate in giving unconditionally to those in need. So these were the 4 external sadhana, list of external sadhanas as part of 27th verse. And today, the 30th verse is about antaranga sadhana, the inner spiritual practice or the internal spiritual practice. And this verse basically is about that. So it begins with what? Pranayama. Pranayama is a term that we hear quite often, and the only problem is we have, not all of us, it is quite possible that we may have a limited understanding of pranayama, because pranayama is usually associated with yoga classes that we attend, hatha yoga that we attend, and in which pranayama is otherwise translated as breathing practice. So pranayama is not just restricted to that. That is also one form of pranayama. But pranayama is much beyond that. Prana, like I mentioned, is, or prana, are the vital forces in our body. The heart beats, the lungs expand and contract, the kidney filters, the liver does its function, the stomach does its function, the guts do their function. If they do it without my voluntary thinking, there should be some force. Okay, we'll come back to the topic. Sorry for the discontinuity. So, coming back to prana, the vital forces in our body which help us or which make the body function. So many involuntary things that happen within our body. So there are 5 pranas: prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana. Prana is the vital force between the throat and the chest. The vital force that makes the organs function between the throat and the chest. That's why we call it pranayama, because the breathing process here is involved, because it's between the throat or from the mouth to the chest. So prana are also, so it involves respiration, sensory perceptions and all that. So prana, apana. Apana is navel and below. So elimination, excretion, reproduction, procreation, all these aspects of the body, they are controlled by apana. Vyana is pervasive. So the nervous system, the circulatory system, etc. So the forces that make that happen, they are known as apana. So vyana. So prana, apana, vyana. Udana is throat and above. Udana, throat and above. So speech, thought, etc. The way the brain functions, etc. And prana, vyana, udana, prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. Samana is from the chest to the navel. So gastro system, etc. fall under this category. So the idea is for the body to function, all these parts of the body, all the organs in each of these parts of the body have to function. So there are forces that make them happen. All these forces have to function the way they should. That's when the body would overall function properly, right? So prana, apana, vyana, udana and samana have to work well. So it's not just about breathing practice, rather these pranas have to be controlled, or they should be given the right environment to be in so that they function properly, or they make the organs function properly. So one of it definitely is through breathing practice. So with breathing practice, if you normalize the prana, it is believed that it is a chain reaction, wherein the other forms of pranas also kind of normalize and the body would function properly. It's all subtle effect. And it's not just with breathing practice, it's what we eat. It's the environment that we are in. It is the exposure that we give, the thoughts that we process, all of them have an effect. Think about being in a dark place and suddenly we hear a noise, we hear some sound, our heartbeat increases. We may feel, the intestines loosen up, right? So just being in an environment kind of makes a difference of how the body is going to react, right? Or if we are in a loud place, the way our head reacts, our brain reacts, the way our eyes and ears would react is quite different. Or when we are in the seashore, or we are in front of a waterfall, or we are in a serene, beautiful forest, our reaction, or the way we would feel there would be quite different, right? So it's not just about breathing practice. Breathing practice, yes, like I mentioned, I'm just reiterating it. With breathing practice, we can normalize things. by bringing things under control. But it's not just that, it's not just limited to that, it's what we eat, what we think, where we are, what we are exposed to, the environment that we are in, all of them play a very important role. So when you say pranayama, control the pranas, it is inclusive of all these various things. Where we are, what I think, what am I exposed to, what am I exposing my senses to. All of them play an important role. And it's just not the 5 pranas, there are 5 upapranas or sub-pranas. So the pranas are the main functions of our body, the main functioning of all the organs. The upapranas are the naga, kurma, krikala, devadatta and dhananjaya. They are the ones that control the less significant or the smaller involuntary actions. Like naga, they are the force that help with the gastro system, like hiccups, burping and things like that. They help with that. And then kurma, they help with expansion and contraction process, like blinking of the eye, or the expansion and contraction of any other organ in our body. And then krikala and devadatta, they are about yawning, thirst, to sneeze. Basically, all these are the ways the body is adjusting to a given environment. And then Dhananjaya is about sensory system, touch, the vein, the nerves, and things like that. So they are upapranas. So prana and upaprana. So when we say pranayama is about controlling the pranas. And from what we discussed, how do we control the pranas? When we live consciously. We not just breathe consciously, we live consciously. Everything that we do, if we do it with shraddha, we do it with awareness, automatically we are practicing pranayama. That's why the last verse is stressing on avadhanam, kurvavadhanam, mahatavadhanam. Avadhanam with attention, with care, with awareness. Practice it with awareness. Shraddha is the term that we use. All the scriptures, even Amma, if you hear Amma talk during the daily webcast from Amritapuri, Amma uses the term Shraddha so many times. Bodham is the term that Amma uses so much. And we all know the little kid Bodham in Amritapuri, who kind of entertains us, who kind of makes us laugh a lot with his innocence and cuteness, right? Bodham or Shraddha is the term that Amma keeps mentioning every now and then. And when we say Shraddha cannot be just limited to the English translation awareness. Shraddha is a multitude of things put together and exercised and practiced. So when you say, I do something with Shraddha, and next slide, when we do something with Shraddha, it means I'm doing that action with concentration. It means that I'm doing that action remaining focused and one-pointed and not being distracted. So concentration, focus, leads distraction. And then when I do something with Shraddha, it means I'm doing it with full faith and trust in the things that I'm dealing with, in the people I'm dealing with while doing it. So faith and trust. And faith and trust is not just with people and things that I'm dealing with. We need to have faith and trust in my own self as I do it. So self-confidence is also part of Shraddha. And not just that, we need to respect the things that we are dealing with, respect the people who we are dealing with, respect the condition. So respect is also part of Shraddha. And when we say I'm doing something with Shraddha, we need to have the right attitude, a positive outset, a positive attitude that I behold as I do something. Be optimistic when I do it. And very importantly, to have patience. When I do something, I need to have patience. Unless and until I exercise patience, my action will not be complete. And when we have patience, we develop the attitude of acceptance. I perform the action the best I could, but the outcome is beyond my control. So unless and until I have the attitude of acceptance, it is not going to help me. So acceptance, and to be aware and be conscious of the situation. Be aware of what is right, what is wrong. To be aware of what is the best way to do things, or the plan B of doing things. So do it with consciousness and awareness. And all these put together, concentration, focus, least distraction, faith, trust, self-confidence, respect, right attitude, being positive, being patient, being with the attitude of acceptance, being aware and being conscious. All these put together is when we could say that I'm doing something with Shraddha, that I'm doing something with awareness. It's just not mere awareness, it is all of these put together is when we live with Shraddha, or when we do something with Shraddha. So pranayama is about practicing Shraddha every moment of our life. To live consciously, do everything consciously, breathe consciously, breathe with control, and that is just the first step. Take it further and live every moment with awareness, with Shraddha. So pranayama is directly bound to the next term, pratyahara, because when we practice Shraddha, automatically what do? We bring our mind and our senses under control. To have patience, to develop acceptance, to respect someone, to have faith, to remain focused, to have concentration, definitely we need to have our senses and our mind focused. So that's why pranayamam pratyaharam. Pratyaharam prati aharam. Withdrawal. Withdraw the senses. When you say withdraw the senses, what does it mean? It just means don't make our senses depend on things around us. The eyes should not be pleasant only when I see something that I like. Otherwise, my eyes won't be happy. Shouldn't be the case. My ears will not feel pleasant only when they hear something they like. Whether I like something or not, whatever situation I am in, the senses should just not be dependent on them. They should just do their work, and the mind should least get affected by them. That's what it means when you say withdraw. And that's why the terms that we use to control the mind is shama, and the term that we use to control the senses is called dhamma. That's why in the Arati, the 5th verse of Amma's Arati, we have Shama Dhamma Dayini Manalaya Karini. So one who bestows Shama and Dhamma, one who bestows us the ability to control our mind and our senses. That thereby Manalaya Karini, one who is able to bring tandem in our mind, one who is able to bring peace in our mind. So Shama and Dhamma. So pranayama pratyahara. And the best way to keep our mind and our senses under control, Shama and Dhamma, is to always have a positive goal. When we have a goal, automatically our senses will try to work with us. Like, say, I have a goal to lose weight. Automatically, even when I have something that I relish a lot, a food item in front of me, my mind would say, don't go for it. My mouth will not start watering, or my mouth, even if it starts watering, will try to control, telling, no, I'm not going to taste it. My tongue is not going to taste it, right? Because we have a goal in our mind. Or say we have diabetes. Similarly, we have something sweet in front of us which we enjoy a lot, because we have a goal so as to control my blood sugar. Automatically, it will help us control our mind and our senses. So the best way to keep our mind and our senses under control, we need to develop and have a goal. So pranayama, pratyahara, and when we discuss pranayama and pratyahara, we also discuss the term shraddha. So we'll keep these three in mind. The second line is nitya nitya viveka vicharam. Nitya, eternal, permanent; anitya, impermanent, non-eternal. Viveka, have the right understanding, have the right discernment, have the right discrimination between what is right, so what is eternal, what is not, what is true, what is false. Vichara, always practice the thought process of exercising viveka in whatever we do. So right contemplation and right discrimination of what is permanent, what is not, what is true, what is not. When we say we understand something, or I understood what my teacher taught me, or I understand how to cook, I understand how to drive, I understand how to sing. When you say I understand something, what does it actually mean? I understand every aspect of it. What is good, what is bad. When I say I know to sing, I should also know what bad singing means and try to avoid that, right? So I also try to understand, when I say I know to sing, I should understand what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what is good in me, what is bad in me, and accordingly I should sing. So to understand what is good, what is bad, and then to understand the to cultivate the right ability to discriminate on what is good, what is bad, what is true, what is false, and then after that we should have the ability to react after making the right judgment. That's when we say I understand something. For example, when we say I know driving, driving doesn't mean that I know to handle the steering wheel, I know to floor the gas pedal, or I know to depress the brake pedal. That alone isn't driving. When I say I am a good driver, I know to drive, it basically means, of course, I should know how to accelerate, I should know how to brake, I should know how to steer. Definitely yes. I remember once I had a memorable ride with someone. I wouldn't say that it is a he or a she. A memorable ride with someone. Unfortunately, it was on a hilly region, just a 2-lane ride over a hill. So it was all windy, curvy roads, very narrow, and this person definitely knew how to steer, how to accelerate, how to brake, but the coordination between them was definitely not there. So it was more like a roller coaster ride. The person, when he or she accelerates, just accelerates big time, and the car would just zoom, and all of a sudden there would be a car that would come from around the corner. Immediately the person will press the brake, and everyone in the car will just go 2 or 3 inches forward, because that is the amount of brake the person does, applies. And then once the car is gone, the person again accelerates big time, and we move back 2 or 3 inches as the person accelerates. And that was the case for the next 20-30 minutes as we were going through those windy roads. And it was quite an experience. One of the persons was prone to car sickness or motion sickness. The person started throwing up eventually. So just to know to steer, to press on the gas pedal or press on the brake doesn't mean I know driving. So when I say I know driving, one, definitely I've learned how to steer, how to accelerate, how to brake. That should definitely be there. 2, I should understand how should I drive in different conditions. I could drive on a straight road, I could drive in a particular way. On a windy road, I should drive in a particular way. When it rains, I should drive in a particular way. When it snows, how should I drive? We should have an understanding of all that. We should understand what is good, what is bad. The car, if you look at all the cars, most of the cars have 160 or 180 miles per hour limit to the speedometer. That doesn't mean I can just accelerate and reach that point, because though the speedometer shows that your car can go 160 miles an hour, The board outside may say go only 35 miles an hour. So we should understand what is bad, what is good, what is right, what is wrong, and then accordingly do it. Just because my car has the ability, I cannot go just fast whenever I want. So to understand what is good, what is bad, and to be able to discriminate what is right and what is wrong, and to make a decision as quickly as possible in different situations. I am going on the lane and suddenly I see someone in front of me apply brake, or I see someone driving recklessly. What should I do? I shouldn't wait till the last moment. I should secure my car well in advance, right? All these are decisions that we are making every moment as we are driving. So given the situation, to have the right discrimination and to be able to make decision. Only when we have all this can we say, I know to drive, or I am a good driver. Only then should we claim that I am a good driver. Similarly, life, we say, I am a good driver in my life, is when we have nitya, anitya, viveka, vichara. When we have viveka, when we have the right discrimination, discernment of what is right, what is wrong, what is righteous, what is non-righteous, what is eternal, what is not eternal, like the example we always discuss. Anything that we do, everything that we do, there is something eternal about it. There are so many aspects that are kind of transitory in nature, transient in nature. So rather focus on the eternal part of it. Again, with the example of car that we discussed throughout the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita as an example. When we think about a car, the car is always permanent. The color of the car, the model of the car, the shape of the car, the beauty of the car, all of them are transient in nature. They may be in a particular way the first month, the second month, the first year, the second year, the third year, the 10th year. The car may not be in the same shape as it was 10 years ago. As long as I'm bound by the car than the color, the beauty, the appeal of the car, I'm going to be content. The more I am bound by just the color, the shape, the beauty of the car, maybe after 2 months I'll be done with the car. I would start dreaming about the next car, right? So anything that we deal with, be it something that belongs to me, be it a relationship, be it a situation that I am in, think of what is permanent there and associate with that. Others, let us just let go of them and not be attached to them. That would be the best way we could act in a matured way in that given situation. So practice viveka. Practice the right discrimination between what is right, what is wrong, what is eternal, what is not, what is true, what is false. The third line says, Japya sameta samadhi vidhanam. Japa. Japa, as Amma always says, when we do the Kartika Satsang, I keep repeating during the Manasa Puja that Amma says, to keep chanting our mantra is one of the most effective way to keep our mind one-pointed. When you say to keep our mind one-pointed, to filter out as many unnecessary thoughts from the mind is what we mean by keeping the mind one-pointed. To focus on one particular thing. If it is a puja, focusing on that. If it is our work, focusing on that. If it is my exam, focusing on that. Filter out every other unnecessary thought. And one of the best ways to train our mind is through japa, when we keep chanting our mantra. And through that, reach the state of samadhi. Samadhi, sama. So, sama in Sanskrit means equal, oneness. There is no difference there. Sama, everything. So, samadhi. Adhi in Sanskrit translates to be subjugated to. To be subjugated to what? To be subjugated to the state of oneness. That's what samadhi would mean. So, to reach the state of samadhi. Samadhi is a state wherein there is no good, there is no bad, there is no friend, there is no foe. There is no he, there is no me. There is just oneness. It's like Sushupti. Sushupti is deep sleep state. When we are in deep sleep state, whoever comes and stands in front of us, it doesn't make a difference. Whether they play an English song or they play a Sanskrit song or they play a rock music or they play classical music, they play Hindustani, Indian classical music, it doesn't make any difference to us. We would be sleeping in bliss, right? So whatever is around us least bothers us in the state of Sushupti, in deep sleep state. But why doesn't it affect us in deep sleep state? Because we are not aware of what is around us. But what if we are awake and we are in the same way? Whatever is around us doesn't affect us. That is the state of Samadhi, because everything is one. There is no like, there is no dislike. There is no me, there is no you. There is only the feeling of oneness. So that's what Samadhi actually means. The state of oneness, the state of no difference. So Japya Sametha, through Japa, along with Japa, get to the state of Samadhi. Amma says, like I mentioned, Japa is an effective way of getting to that state by filtering out as many thoughts. Because by nature, our mind survives with as many thoughts that it could practice. Mind, when we discuss this topic, you may have heard me mention, it's an example that Amma gives, or analogy Amma gives. Mind is like a piece of cloth. A piece of cloth is nothing but a lot of strands of threads put together. That becomes cloth. You remove one thread after the other, there is no more cloth left. You'll have all the strands of thread with you in form of spaghetti, but the cloth is gone because the thread is all removed. Similarly, the mind does not have an existence. Mind is all these thoughts interwoven together. So one after the other, every thought is removed, the mind just ceases to exist. So for the mind to survive, what does the mind do? It tries to create one thought after the other. So the moment I see the camera in front of me, I am suddenly reminded of the camera that they would have used for Jurassic Park, shooting of Jurassic Park movie. A mind can go anywhere, right? So when I think of camera, suddenly a thought would come in me, because the thought came, that's why I'm telling you that, right? Jurassic Park. And the moment I think of Jurassic Park, I'm suddenly thinking of dinosaurs. When I think of dinosaur, I'm suddenly thinking of big figure. When I think of big figure, I'm just thinking of an elephant. And when I think of elephant, I'm suddenly reminded of Kerala. And when I'm reminded of Kerala, I'm suddenly reminded of Amritapuri. And when I'm reminded of Amritapuri, if a mind is good, I would be reminded of Amma. Otherwise, I would be reminded of the Western Cafe in Amritapuri, right? Of all the places in Amritapuri, I'm reminded of Western Cafe. And then I'm reminded of the person who did not behave well with me in the Western Cafe, or did not smile at me in the Western Cafe. And that brings in anger. The anger came from where? Came from just looking at the camera. My mind went all the way leading to feeling sad or angry. Right? That's how the mind works. It takes one cue, thereafter it's a snowball effect. It's a domino effect. One thought after the other. It keeps interweaving these thoughts. That's how mind would survive. So how does Japa help? Japa, so mind is, the more we let the mind get random thoughts, random inputs through our senses, the more and more the mind is going to think. So Japa is where you're putting a stop to this randomness. You're putting a stop to this entropy. What are we doing? We are trying to create a trend. We are trying to create a pattern in our set of thoughts. So now I'm thinking of the camera. Next I think of Jurassic Park. Then I think of the dinosaurs. Then I think of elephant. All these are random thoughts. Rather than letting our mind go after these random thoughts, we are trying to make the mind think of the same constant thing again and again and again and again. And what is that constant thought? Our mantra. If it is Amma or if it is Om Namah Shivaya, that is a thought the mind is processing now. Then what is the next thought? Is again Om Namah Shivaya. What is the next thought? Again Om Namah Shivaya. What is the next thought? Again Om Namah Shivaya. So what am I doing? Or what are we doing when we chant? I'm trying to create a pattern which is not random in nature. That way we are calming the mind down. That doesn't mean the mind doesn't process any other thought. It definitely does process the other thoughts too. But at least the amount of randomness is reduced there. And the thoughts come much more under control. So that's why Amma says japa is very important. Japa is very effective in bringing the mind under control. And not just mantra, it could be japa, chanting of the Lalita Sahasranama, chanting of any other form of Sahasranama, chanting of the Gita, chanting of Bhaja Govindam, chanting of the hymns from the Vedas. All these are basically to train our mind to go over a pattern rather than processing random thoughts. For the next 30 minutes that I chant the Lalita Sahasranama, I am not going to let you go haywire that as you usually do. Rather, I am going to force you to go through this pattern of the 1,000 names, is what we are actually doing when we chant the 1,000 names. So that way, we are training our mind to become calm and calmer and calmer and calmer. That way, reaching a state of complete calm, feeling of oneness, which is samadhi, a feeling of no difference. Because there are no these things around us that are creating the randomness in our mind. So, japya sameta samadhi vidhanam kurvavadhanam mahatavadhanam. Do it with awareness, do it with shraddha. And we discussed what shraddha is. So, to summarize all the things that this verse talked about, one, to control our pranas. When you say control our pranas, control our breath, not just that, control the environment that we are in, to live a conscious life. The food that we eat, what we speak, what we think, all of them, our company, all of them play an important role. So control the pranas. True. Two, how do we do that? By controlling our mind and our senses. Withdraw them within. Don't let them go after things outside, or don't let them get intimidated, or don't let them get excitable by things outside. As much as we reduce that, it will help us. Three, to, in any situation that we are in, any person that we are dealing with, anything that we are dealing with, always exercise the question, the inquiry. What is eternal? What is not? What is right? What is not? And fourth, japa, constant remembrance, constant practice. 5, thereby reaching a state of equipoise, wherein we are least, what is the term? To be affected by things. You say this person is excitable. No, there's a term that we use. Anyway, I hope you understand what I'm trying to convey. Not being excitable by things around us, not being instigated by things around us. Distracted. We say a person is obsession. Anyway, you're getting the point I'm trying to make. So be in that state of samadhi, not being affected by things around us and people around us. And practice these with shraddha, with care. Because we don't do it with care, it's going to affect us negatively sometimes. And you say, I am in samadhi. We have a misunderstanding of what samadhi is. That is not good for us, that is not good for others too. So everything that we do, especially the internal sadhana, it should be with awareness. So these are the points that the verse is trying to convey to us. We are on this Shraddha slide? Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. So I think we'll conclude the discussion today. We'll not do the chanting. We lost power in between. So there was a gap and it's already past 8:30. So if we chant, it'll go much longer. So we'll conclude here. The next week, just before we stop today's session, a quick announcement. Next week, Wednesday, would be Guru Purnima. So we would be doing the Guru Purnima in-person satsang in Washington, D.C. And if you're from other ashrams or other cities, we have Guru Purnima celebrations the following weekends in Atlanta, New York, Boston and Toronto. So 13th, because it's Guru Purnima, we would be doing Guru Purnima here. There wouldn't be a webcast, but we'll be doing it here. So next week we will not have the scriptural discussion. We'll do the 31st verse the week after. I think it's the 20th of July. We'll do the last verse, and we'll see if we have enough time. We will do the conclusion. Else, we'll take one more week to do the concluding part of the Bhaja Govindam discussion, scriptural discussion, especially because I'm recording the Bhaja Govindam chant in a tune. So we'll try to play that if I'm ready with the visuals and the audio recording. We'll do that week. So maybe the 20th we'll do the 31st verse, and the following weekend we'll do the concluding part along with playing the recording. And we'll have the recording available on YouTube thereafter. So let us conclude today's session, praying to the Almighty that every being in the creation be happy, content, and peaceful. Let us chant the... I see someone sending a message, annoyed. Annoyed about what? Oh, the term, annoyed. Okay, sorry. I thought you were annoyed with me. I'm very sorry. So, annoyed, I was asking for some term. I was actually looking for the term, something like excitable. The person, temperamental. When you use the term temperamental, that was the term I was looking for. We shouldn't be temperamental in any situation that we are in. People and things around us should not affect us. Anyway, let's conclude this session, praying to the Almighty that every being in the creation be happy, content, and peaceful. Let's chant the Shanti Mantra together 3 times. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.